Hello, I'm TerryDavidMulligan, and this is Mulligan Stew, the podcast, music, film, food, and wine. Let's just set that aside for a second. Yes, it's a podcast, and yes, we touch those bases. I'm more concerned about you, the podcast audience. How you're doing, your family, your friends. Are you okay? Are you getting through? We're all trying to do the best we can, I know that. I was thinking today that I'm very lucky in that my job, what I do, speak into a microphone, hasn't changed. I can still do that. Walk into the studio, sit down, talk into a microphone. I do a lot of thinking before I get there, but I'm truly blessed. I'm thinking of everyone who's listening. I just want to say, I hope we all get through this together. Okay? Good? Deal? I was thinking, all right, who's the next podcast? I know next week is my friend Rockin' Roy Forbes. We'll get to him next week. Right now, I need music to lift my soul. But nobody does that quicker these days than the Wood Brothers. The thing about it is, I didn't know that the Wood Brothers were the Wood Brothers. There was a blues band that I liked called King Johnson. That was Oliver Wood. But I really, really, really loved Medeski, Martin, and Wood, who expressed themselves through jazz and contemporary music. They did a lot of riffing. They were brilliant musicians. That was Chris Wood. And it wasn't until they got together, those two acts, King Johnson and Medeski, Martin, and Wood, that the brothers said, we should be making music together. But they were living in different places. Oliver was in Atlanta, and Chris was constantly touring. I think it was back in Colorado. And Jano Rix, their third member, he was just wherever he wanted to be. And finally, they made music together. Actually, I think in this interview, either Oliver or Chris tells the story of how they actually came to form Wood Brothers. The albums were Ways Not to Lose, Loaded, Up Above My Head, Smoke Ring Halo, The Muse, Paradise, One Drop of Truth, Kingdom in My Mind, which is the latest. The live albums are Live at Tonic EP, Live Volume 1 Sky High, Live Volume 2 Tooth and Nail, and the one we're going to talk about in this interview, Live at the Barn. The barn belonged to Levon Helm. It was attached to his house. He could literally walk out of his kitchen and straight into his studio in a barn. And the Wood Brothers supported all of the rambles that Levon Helm did as he was slowly fading and then passed away. And the first concert that happened in that barn after Levon Helm's passing, which was many, many, many months later, was the Wood Brothers. And they recorded that set. So here's a conversation with Chris Wood, his brother Oliver Wood, and the third member, Jano Rix, who plays what he calls a sitar. It's a guitar, but it's a percussive instrument. He is the drummer and the guitarist and the extra voice as well. It is a brilliant band, the Wood Brothers. They're honest. They love the same things a lot of us do, especially me, the band, for one. So let me take you back to the Imperial Ballroom in Vancouver, March 28th, 2017. The Wood Brothers in conversation. We're talking to the Wood Brothers backstage at the Imperial Room in Vancouver on Lower Main Street. Chris Wood, his brother Oliver Wood, and Jano Rix from the Planet Zorb. We're talking about the Wood Brothers and their new album called Live at the Barn. It's a concert recorded August of 2016, the barn being, in fact, Levon Helm's home in Woodstock, New York. Welcome to Vancouver. Welcome across the border. Any problems? Any old criminal histories that showed itself on the computers? Everybody all right?
I think we're clean so far.
It's amazing. Yep. It's astonishing.
We're more worried about going back the other way.
Yeah, that's there. Welcome to Vancouver and the Imperial. Anyway, how was your health, Chris?
Well, if you're referring to my hospital visit in October, that's long. Yeah.
Well, I understand that, but the first thing,
I'm healed.
One of the photos that pops up is you in that bed with the tubes coming out of you.
Yeah.
Popular. Yeah. It's a popular look.
Yeah, that's a publicity stunt, trust me.
Yeah.
Did it work?
Yeah, it was a dramatic moment, but, it turned out to be a fairly simple thing. Yeah, I'm all better from that.
You were on a tour, a smaller tour compared to what's going to happen later on in the year. You're going to hook up with Tedeschi Trucks. Smaller stages, you seem to take to them certain rooms. How will you have to adjust for that Tedeschi Trucks show, do you think?
That's a good question. I mean, we've definitely done enough of those larger things, usually as a support act for a larger act, and we've done that and learned a little bit about taking a little of the subtlety away and being a little more simple. But I don't think we'll do a lot different. I mean, we'll just do what we do.
Don't the arm movements have to be bigger? Don't you have to play to the back?
Well, yeah, and we opened a lot for Zach Brown, and I think in these sheds, I think the places we're playing have a certain intimacy to it compared to, it can get really big when you start playing for more like 20,000 people.
5,000 is
5,000
nothing
is
compared
still
to 20,000.
relatively intimate. We can do what we do.
Does the set change?
It vaguely.
It affects the set, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, any room that you play in affects what you want to play and how you play it. So it's hard to put into words exactly what we do different, but you want to make it sound good in the space you're in.
Right. Some of the really subtle things probably won't work.
Chris, when I talked to you on the phone, you described Jano as from a planet or a Calithian soldier. What was he? You had a great. Sorry, I should have listened to the interview.
What was it? Yeah, I don't know. It was an inspired moment. I don't know.
Like a warlord from space. It's wonderful, and possibly.
Do I look like? Does my appearance look?
No, it doesn't. No, well, you could in the right suit.
Radio audience.
On the right suit.
That's when they had me on that synthetic morphine. I don't know what I was saying.
He knows something.
The Wood brothers, Chris and Oliver Wood, and riding shotgun, Jano Rix. Now, I know you're busy up there because you've got a lot of things going on, but you have a unique opportunity. Some part of your brain is watching these two work out front. Does it change from night to night? Do they surprise you from night to night? And where are those surprises?
They surprise me from beat to beat.
Wow.
Note to note. But I mean,
not necessarily a good thing.
But that's life. I don't know. It's like that's one of the beautiful things about the band is that we don't play any measure the same way 2 nights or 2 times in a row because it's a different time.
I think that's why we're there as well.
That's right. It's far the opposite of playing to pre-recorded tracks.
So there's a shorthand. There's a shorthand. Like you just had a conversation about a song. It was American or something, and you were saying, let's shorten this up. Your hand signals were saying, let's shorten something or phrasing. Right. So can you do that on the go? You must be able to.
Yeah, I think there's an intuitive thing that happens too, where we just sort of listen to each other and it's not like we're a free jazz experience or anything. We're playing structured songs, but I think that's one of the nice things about really knowing the music and also having a little bit of musicianship going on where you can mess with it a little bit. Once you really know it, you can try and do different things. I mean, much more of these guys than me. I just kind of try to get up there and survive. But like Chris and Jano, will have solos, and they rarely play the same. They play something different every night.
I would add to that, it's going to sound a little woo-woo, but I think of it as if I'm in the river, I think of it as a river going. And if I'm in the river with everyone, then you can affect change. You can make things change. You can be like, this solo is going to end now tonight, right. And everyone will be there with you. Right. But if you're not in the river, then it's like, what? Right. What happened? Yeah. Right.
We're talking to the Wood brothers backstage at the Imperial Room in Vancouver on Lower Main Street. Chris Wood, his brother Oliver Wood, and Jano Rix. Billy Gibbons says, I said, what happens when you guys, ZZ Top's a trio.
Yeah.
They take off in 3 separate directions. Right. They're connected, of course. Right. I asked Billy, so how do you meet? Where do you meet? He said, we all end up in the same corner. We all end up back at the same intersection, and off we go in the
right. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
But you got to meet up in the corner.
Yeah. Well, if we're all on the river with Jano, then we all end up at the same place.
We have a mutual friend in Levon Helm. He's an amazing man. It was an amazing man. He's still with me. And this album, Live at the Barn, is a tribute to the barn, tribute to Levon and his legacy in music. And it was sounds like, if I read the accounts of it, Chris, that it sounded like it was a natural progression for you to go back to that stage and play that stage after we had lost Levon.
Absolutely. Used to live near there, and we spent some rambles there and spent some time with him there, and it was a special place.
Was the night a tribute to him, or was it just a concert for you guys?
Both. Yeah, I mean, we definitely dedicated some songs to him that night. One song, Ophelia, because obviously it's from the band and he sang it great, and a couple other ones, Postcards from Hell, I think was dedicated to him because he embodies that in his own way, that artistic.
That was written about somebody else, but it fit him, didn't it?
Well, sure. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a universality about it. So.
Sure. The other thing is you could just feel the spirit in there when you go in there. So even though we weren't going there necessarily to pay tribute to him, you just can't help it. You go in there and you can feel him, and his legacy is there. And there's pictures everywhere, and you just want to honor him.
We're talking to the Wood Brothers backstage at the Imperial Room in Vancouver on Lower Main Street. Chris Wood, his brother Oliver Wood, and Jano Rix. Jano, what was the room like? Tell me, just describe the room, because you get to see the whole picture.
Well, it's pretty small, and the audience kind of surrounds you. They're even above you and behind you, and it's very wooden and small.
It's your kind of room.
Yeah.
You just described a Wood Brothers type of room.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were an amazing audience, really with us every step.
Yeah.
You could hear a pin drop, and then they were singing every word.
And I think the people there who go to the barn have a reverence for that space. It's kind of like a musical church,
Yeah.
So they're so connected to the music.
Yeah,
it's all about the music.
Yeah.
And we have fresh in our minds this experience of being there with Levon, with his big grin, and it's like right there, standing where he was playing, and that's powerful.
So on the night, Chris, I think I've also seen that you write out those set lists. What did you want to? Which tunes had to be on that set list?
Well, I think
because you recorded 2 hours, as I understand, but we get.
You mean what tunes had to be on the record, or?
Well, on the record, but on the night as well.
That night, well, I think it was more about just what we were playing at the time. The idea really is, for these live records is. Over time, we develop this material that we recorded in the studio, and it changes. Yeah. And so really what that was about was capturing a batch of songs that that hadn't been released in their current form, So it's these new versions of these new live versions that were very different than the studio versions. We wanted that to be represented.
What changes a song, Oliver? What's the one thing that changes it, other than boredom of having to play it over? Just try not to fall into that trap. What's the one? How do you want to mess with a song? What do you want to do with it? Because you know what? That's what attracts me a great deal to the music.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes we just, for our own pleasure and to keep us interested, sometimes we just like to take a real rockin' electric song and make it acoustic and make it more
vice
intimate.
versa.
And vice versa. And that's kind of, there's no rule to it. It's just, we just like to try things. And I think the audience likes that. They seem to like that too. So it's kind of fun for everybody.
How this band started. I mean,
yeah.
The way we started is we took songs that Oliver had already been playing and, older songs of his, and then just rearranged them for a duo. Just for fun, that was the challenge, and
there was a time and there's a question here. And that is, you, Oliver, you were in Atlanta, you were in Upper New York State,
right.
and you go to him, he'd go to you, and you'd work out some tunes. And I think the phrase was, we were trying to find our voice, trying to find what it was the Wood Brothers were. How long did it take, and was there a moment when you went, okay, that's it?
Well, strangely, I think it happened before we got together on a family vacation once, and Chris brought me his National Steel guitar to play and his upright, and we just recorded some things. And I think that was when we were just like, whoa, this is really cool. We don't have to have a whole band or anything. It's just we can do everything. It's just a new challenge for us to try to do everything. So, yeah, like Chris said, we reconfigured some band-oriented songs that I had just for two people. How can it was rising to the challenge of making it full and interesting and fun, and somehow it really improved some things just to take away everything and strip it all away to these real basic sounds. And
some of that stuff ended up on our first record.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then to talk about finding our voice, I mean, I feel like we're finding it right now.
Absolutely.
And every year I feel so. But Jano's with us, and the sound has grown, and we keep searching and finding and realizing what we're capable of and what we're not capable of, and that's how you find out who you are. And I feel like we're doing that right now, and we're writing new songs for a new record, and in doing that, we're finding our voice as a trio. We're self-producing as a trio, writing as a trio. And so it's still happening, which is exciting. Yeah. It's not like we figured it out. We're just going to keep doing that forever.
Yeah, and I think it's oftentimes, like you were talking about the ZZ Top, that I think what's cool about a duo and even maybe more so a trio at this point is that you do have limitations, and it's always cool to push them. Like we have Jano's back there playing keyboards and drums.
At the same time?
At the same time. Chris is playing harmonica while he plays the bass. And we're all singing, and we're sort of, using all our resources and trying to shuffle them up into different ways that we don't hear everybody else doing. So,
we're talking to the Wood brothers backstage at the Imperial in Vancouver. Chris Wood, his brother Oliver Wood, and Jano Rix. I had a better relationship with Robbie than I did with Levon. That's just the way it worked out. And Robbie was the one who invited me to be at the Last Waltz. And I talked to him about Testimony, the book, and it left just at the Last Waltz. Mm-hmm. He's going to write the next part, and I know that he went and saw Levon, and I'm thinking about the band and their place in music. When you first heard those tunes, we heard Big Pink and the band, what were you doing, and did that music cut through to your quick like it did me?
I think it hit me later. Like it didn't. Or not early on. I think I was more interested in I don't know, more guitar-oriented music or just straight-up blues and stuff like that. So, but when I became a songwriter, which was later in my 20s, I think that's when I really got it and really understood these guys had something special. So.
And they were telling stories as well, which is what you guys do.
Well, it's funny. The first time I heard of the band is when I was with Medeski, Martin, and Wood, and a friend of mine, a good friend of ours, Oren Blodow, who we recorded with and was very influenced by the band, he sort of observed the way we worked together, lived together. We just coexisted completely together as a group, vacationed together. It's kind of insane after a while. But he was like, you guys are just like the band, not in our music, but in the way we live together and work together. And I was like, who? The band? There's a band called The Band, and that was the first time. He showed us some photos, these kind of old-timey looking, like, this is in the 90s. I didn't really know what to think of it. But I think, when I saw The Last Waltz, I think for a lot of people that was sort of a powerful introduction because, I mean, for me, because I didn't hear the Big Pink and some of that stuff until later, some of those versions on The Last Waltz for me are like the definitive versions. They're so, they've been playing them live for so long. The night they drove Old Dixie down, I don't know, for me that's like the version. It's so powerful.
And the way he leans into that microphone.
Incredible. And the visual of seeing Levon play. It was very powerful stuff. So I think, and I know Levon has mixed feelings about the way all that went down in the movie and whatever, but all that aside, it is a powerful visual, the music, it hits you, and it's kind of undeniable, the way they put that thing together. It's great.
So, Jano, the brothers came to you as a duo and said, we'd like you to join us and make it a trio. Have you shared with them the first thought that went through your mind?
I was already thinking, I hope I get to play the Wood Brothers.
Because?
They were one of my favorite bands. Yeah, I was...
They need a drummer.
Yeah, and these guys need a drummer.
We need a
it's pretty good, but no. No, they were one of my favorite bands. They're probably like my favorite.
Did you add the instrumentation as you went? I have an idea. Or was it already part of what you were doing?
You mean like my kind of crazy setup?
I mean, you didn't hire on just as a drummer. You got great vocals.
Well, I thought I was just going to be a drummer, but I actually showed up to the first gig with the shitar, which I didn't at Carnegie Hall. I didn't. Yeah.
We were part of a bunch of other bands. It was pretty pretty funny.
That's right. We did a Neil Young tribute, and we had one song to play, and
That was our
he
first
showed up for a
show.
rehearsal, and he had this sitar. We're like, that's what we're using. That's awesome. We were so
Yeah.
excited.
I didn't think about it. I brought that this kind of afterthought. I brought that along. I was like, maybe these guys will like this.
Right.
And yeah, so I played that at Carnegie Hall, and then you know, obviously we ran through a few tunes on drums, but I think the biggest surprise was when we sang together.
Yeah.
That
was.
it
And we're like,
just
oh my gosh,
wow, it just
three-part
worked,
harmony.
and it was so much easier for me to sing with them than it had ever been with anyone else.
Did you have the same musical legacy that they did? Had you listened to the same, come up the same roads?
Oh, you mean us? Yeah, kind of. And
Influences?
my dad's a musician, like professional drummer, and so he was hipping me to a lot of those records. And
What was your dad listening to?
my dad, actually, the band is one of my dad's favorite bands. However, that was one of the records I did not get as a kid. I did not understand those records. I didn't like them. And then it was somewhere around like 30 where I heard it again, and I was just like, this is the most incredible music ever created. Where have I been? Yeah, so, yeah, but a lot of the same influences. Yeah, we have all the...
Jano's dad played with Dylan for a little bit, so
Yeah, he played with Dylan and Leonard Cohen and a lot of people.
A lot of people.
Yeah, but Jano, you know,
Guy.
Jano, like, yeah, he played the sitar. We saw that he did that. There's some videos on YouTube. You can find out everything about a guy and stalk him. But yeah, so it was like, now that's cool because we can play unplugged but still have a beat. But it's not like a shakore or a djembe. It's the sitar. It's this American invented instrument, you know. And then he's an incredible keyboard player and drummer and singer. And I think what's been really exciting over the years is that we've learned to incorporate all those things, weave them together, all those things that Jano can do, and that find their niche, you know. And it took a while because it's like, how do you put all those things together? And you only got 4 limbs, but over time, it's really, I think, we created our own little unique sound using all those things that he can do.
Rarely do I instill myself into the tracks, but I remember seeing that YouTube tune of you guys in the back of the carriage, I think in New Orleans.
Oh, yeah.
What's the tune?
Well, we did a couple that day. I know we did I Got Loaded and maybe One More
One
Day.
more day, I got loaded. Yeah.
I'm not sure which one you saw.
I think it was I Got Loaded. That's so cool. I just love taking music and putting it on another stage. I like that. The way
Yeah,
that
it was
was
pretty cool to just
was.
ride around in the French Quarter and see people's reactions. And
I'm going to add that to the website. Wood Brothers passing through Vancouver. They've got a very busy summer. You don't finish till September the 1st. And probably more dates after that if the
Yeah, we
office has
never
anything
really
to do with it.
finished, yeah.
You're doing the Blind Willie McTell Festival. Do you do his tunes, or how does it? What's the formulation?
I think that's just. I lived in Atlanta for a long time, so I'm familiar with the Blind Willie McTell story and his. I think that started out as a real blues festival, but I think now it's grown into more just a roots music festival. So we're not going to necessarily go play Blind Willie tunes. But probably a good idea.
Let's talk about a couple of big things, issues, and jump in. You can pass if you want. One is, I've been doing a series of that just happened. The last question of the interviews that I've been doing over the last little while has been about everything that's happening in the States. We as Canadians watch it like it's happening to us, and it is in its own way. And I keep thinking because there's a division, there's a deep division, and there's no two ways about it. It's either yes or no. And I keep waiting for the music voice to come through to show itself as a protest or as a voice against Mr. Trump's moves. And I know what's going to happen. I just kind of in what form and what shape. How do you get a sense that this may happen?
well, I think it is happening. I think it's happening. I can't cite any examples, but I know,
Tribe Called Quest record before the election, even.
There were some very strong, statements. I think what interests us more than anything is finding some, especially, I think music could be a valuable way to get this across, but to find find more common ground. You know, it's like
Truly.
one thing to protest, but protest these days, it's immediately pigeonholed and, they're just left or right or conservative.
Yeah.
And we want to find
Bring it
the
together.
common ground and bring things together, you know, because we hate that everything's so divided. It's terrible. And I really think that the problem lies in the language, really, more than anything. That, you know, the right and the left have different values, and therefore that are, you know, priorities in their lives, and they're both good, and the core values, and therefore they tend to use different language when they express what they feel is important in life. But that's sometimes the only difference, and you could describe the same issue in these two different language value sets, and they sound different, but they're not. And I think that's part of the problem. And so there's common ground. It's just we're in a very strange time period right now, and it's hard to bridge it.
And you as artists, you see those people as an audience. You don't see those lines.
Yeah.
You're still singing your tunes.
Yeah, well, I think it's keeping it that way feels good, because I don't think you necessarily have to be anti this. You need to be pro something, and it feels good, like Chris was saying, to be pro unity and pro, you know, positive stuff that sort of brings people together, not more. I don't know. There's
need
time
more of
for
that.
both. There's time for for both.
Yeah, no. I've tried to describe what it is that you do musically, and when people say, "Well, I can't hear that on the radio," no, you can't. No questions asked. I love the tracks. I love the direction. I love the focus. I loved you stepping forward and just believing in yourselves. How do you describe your music to people who have never heard you before or have never heard the tunes?
This is a tough one. I mean, one of the answers to that a lot of musicians say is like, that's not my job, and so they don't even try, you know. We just try to play it. But I'd like to find some way to describe it. There's these genres that are created, you know, that just don't quite cut it, you know, and so obviously we don't fit perfectly into the, let's say, Americana.
You know they want to pigeonhole you.
Of course, you know. I mean, what a Paste magazine called a soulful folk, which has captured a little bit of the, okay, it's folky, but yeah, there's a soul part of it. We have a lot of blues, R&B, and gospel influences that maybe some of the Americana bands, in quotes, you know, I'm generalizing, maybe don't have as much. So maybe we sound a little different than that because we feature a lot of that part of Americana. You know what I'm saying?
By the way, he's doing the air quotes, okay?
I'm doing a lot of
just
air
so
quotes because I know it's, you know.
Or can you help me?
Rootsy, creative, soulful music is what we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's hard. We do a lot of stuff on stage. We draw from a lot of places. What people who come to the shows tend to say, like when they're coming to the merch booth and we're meeting them, maybe we're doing a signing and we're meeting them, they talk about how honest it feels or that it touches them. Yeah. So that's the only thread that I feel like runs through it, is that we're just not really going for any one thing. We're just trying to be honest, and that maybe connects with people. I don't know.
Well put.
Thematically, the way Oliver said, you know, about politics, it's just the same thing in all these human issues, you know, that we're trying to explore dark places, but always find the positivity, find the inspiration. And I think there's something about that, because we've noticed over time that we tend to attract either couples who say, you know, oh, you're the only music that we can agree on, you know, or a lot of families, a lot of multi-generational, you know, audience members come up.
Are you seeing kids?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
sometimes kids turn their parents on, or parents turn their kids on, and
Nice.
that always feels good.
Now you're working it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time and
Thank
for
you.
your music. God
Thank you,
bless. I'll
Terry.
see you next time through, okay?
Thanks so much.
Thank you. My thanks to the Wood Brothers, Chris and Oliver, and their sidekick, Jano Rix. Conversation from March of 2017, the Imperial Ballroom in Vancouver. It's on Main Street in Vancouver, right opposite police headquarters, which is why you would expect some sirens. It's also a fire hall right around the corner. Chris Wood, Oliver Wood, Jano Rix, the three of them making brilliant music. Cannot recommend them enough, the Wood Brothers. Their current album is called Kingdom in my mind, but if you like that, you should go back and start at the beginning, because this band makes music that can change lives, ears, thinkings, feelings. Brilliant. There's only three of them on stage. Brilliant musicianship. Now that we passed 100 podcasts, we're free to sort of shotgun around and see who we want to talk to and bring to your ears. I know one interview I want to do for you, and that is one of the few female mezcal masters in all of Mexico, in Oaxaca. Her name is Sosima Oliveira, and we're going to sit on a table and taste some great mezcal and talk about being a female in a very heavily male-dominated business in Mexico. We're going to talk next week to Roy Forbes, who's been a friend of mine and a musical voice in Canada for many, many, many years. By the way, I don't think there's anybody on the planet sings a better version of I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry than this man, Roy Forbes, who was hampered by visions. He couldn't see very well. He had problems with his eyesight. And then one day, walking through his studio, which I've never seen, no one's ever allowed in, but a stack of either 78s or 45s fell on him and damaged his head and his eyes, and he lost his sight. He continues on with his music career, and he does a radio show for CKUA Radio. He just can't see you. It makes no bit of difference. We're going to talk to Roy Forbes. You'll see how it all turns out. He has a brand new album that we'll play for you as well. There's also another band I want to turn you on to called The Radio Grand, featuring Tom Taylor from She Stole My Beer, Wendy Bird from Barney Bental's High Bar Gang and other groups, because he has 3 or 4, and Colin Nairn, Barney Bental's gunslinging guitarist and best friend. The 3 of them got together. The name of the group is The Radio Grand. The album is called Town and Country. Okay, we have a deal, right? You'll take care of yourself, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.